He lost the Minnesota caucuses, and he lost the Alaska. Do they have caucuses in Alaska? He lost the Alaska caucuses. Do you really see that as an equal splitting of the map?
Like another name.
It's an overwhelming night for Trump, but he didn't win Virginia by very much. Look, again, he's the overwhelming favorite. All I'm saying is these three guys now have a chance, rather than a winnowing, because I agree with John Hammond, you're not going to see a winnowing now. They have a chance to maybe fight Trump on multiple fronts and maybe slow him down from a majority. I'm not predicting it. I think he's the overwhelming favorite. All I'm saying is there's some indications on the results last night that he's not quite as strong as I thought he would be last night. And it's possible that if something occurs, if one of these guys gets a hot enough hand in individual states, it's possible that they could stop him from getting a majority.
With all due respect, I say, with all due respect, I find it hard to imagine a more dominant night than Donald Trump had last night. I don't know what results you're looking at. This guy, again, won by massive margins in different regions of the country, won in Virginia. He won across the board. Again, I'm not.
He had a super dominating night, and he's got a very strong hold on the nomination. All I'm saying is there's a scenario now, based on particularly Virginia, where I could imagine.
What's the scenario?
Well, he loses Ohio to John Kasich.
Right.
He loses Florida to Rubio.
Let's look, though, really quickly at Florida, for instance. Nicole Wallace, in a region I know very well, the northern part of Florida. You look at culturally how Donald Trump did in Georgia.
In South Carolina.
And in South Georgia, right on the border.
Right.
He beat everybody by 30 or 40 points. Right. Marco Rubio has no presence in North Florida. That matters in the Republican primary. Again, I'm not trying to say this thing's over. I don't see a pathway forward.
Well, the path forward, I think it's misleading. The path forward isn't to victory, it's to blocking Donald Trump from getting the 1,200 1287 delegates that he needs. So the path forward is not even a path toward victory for any of them. It's a path toward blocking him. And then what? You think there's rancor in the Republican Party now? They're going to go, and we are here because everyone stayed in. I mean, and 3 weeks ago was,
which by the way, Nicole, if Donald Trump could have laid out a scenario better, he said, let Cruz win just enough to keep him in the race. Let Marco win one state.
Right, they're still helping him.
Yeah.
And the notion that someone's going to find religion, as Ted Cruz literally suggested last night, and get out now is another Republican fantasy.
Just look at the again, this, you can't say this enough. His victory was huge.
Yes, it was.
And the goal here, again, if you have to focus on this, which is how do you keep, if the game now is not Marco Rubio gets the magic number, he's not going to get there. We can say that now. Ted Cruz unlikely to get to a majority of delegates.
The
question is now, can the party in one way or the other keep Trump from getting to 1237, whatever that number is. Now look at the delegate totals. We've had this up twice.
Right.
Trump had a really big night.
Right.
Please put those up, please, just so we can see them again.
Look at Heilman.
I just want to see it again because I can't remember what the number is. My mind is a column.
Okay, well look at me and we'll talk about it.
Cruz is only like 30 points. It was only about 20 delegates short.
I understand.
Of Trump's number.
Because Texas came when it came. And you're exactly right.
So the delegate total last night, Trump did not have a dominant night last night in terms of the delegate count. And all that matters is the delegate count.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how many states you win.
Listen, I don't know if you guys have to keep like the drama up for your show, but this thing, I'm not saying it's over, but it's pretty damn close on both sides.
Like I said,
let's game this out because we started to talk about
this. You think that's what they're doing? Trying to keep the drama up?
We started to talk about this yesterday morning, this scenario, which is, okay, Donald Trump has won all these states. Maybe he doesn't get to the magic number in terms of delegates. You get to that convention, and then you're going to tell the Republican Party he's not the nominee, despite the fact that he's won all these states. How do you do that?
How does the party can't do that.
You can't do it.
And who does that? Who walks into the room?
I gotta say, I'm not rooting for an outcome. I'm just telling you what the Republican Party now is going to try to do. That's the game going forward. They may fail. They may fail utterly.
That's not the game.
Trump can win in Florida, can win in Ohio, and shut Connecticut down.
We haven't rooted for outcomes. And we're going to show some clips later on. We've just told everybody what was going to happen, Willie, Mika, and myself over the past 9 months. And I'm just telling you, we're going to say the same thing that we've been saying for 9 months. And stupid people out there say, oh, you must be rooting for us. No. If you're John Madden, you see somebody throw 5 interceptions, you say, he sucks. You better take him off the field. If you see somebody go back rolling to the left and he can throw across his body 45 yards, go, you know what? He's probably going to be the quarterback that wins the Super Bowl. So I can say this again, Mika and Willie. For the 8,000th time, let me say it.
Simmer.
If any other candidate had the night that Donald Trump had last night, they would be throwing rose petals at his feet and saying, all hell.
Nothing stops Rubio.
The new nominee.
But isn't that the point, you guys? I mean, isn't that the point?
Yes,
Such
and
alarm.
people have been blinded for 9 months. What we have seen clearly, people have been blinded by, and now they're going, oh my God, we're shocked. This has happened. I've told people, and Mark Halperin sort of told people for 9 months, Marco Rubio doesn't have it. He can't even throw a 5 and out. Don't invest in him. People go, oh, you hate Marco. No, I don't even know him. But we knew this was going to happen. Same thing with Trump. They've been blinded by what they want to see happening.
And now you want to see the party do something. Desire. I mean, it's... Oh, yes, it is. No, it's not. Oh, my God. The guy that takes 3 days to disavow the KKK, it's not the desire for him to lose. It's the terror. Whoa, I'm still
you're spelling stuff.
It's the terror of what he'll do to the party. It's not denial. What's the difference? Well, the difference is you're willing a different outcome for the difference is you're covering the story in a way that you wouldn't if a different candidate was in the lead.
But the thing is, we're not talking about what should happen. And Willie, we've never talked about what we want to happen. We've talked about what will happen. And it is happening. And the party has been blind to it. Now they're going, oh my God, what are we going to do? Who could have ever seen this coming?
There was an interview last night as Nicole was sitting here. Chris Matthews, I think, was in Texas. He had Tom DeLay on with him. And Tom DeLay was effectively making the case that John and Mark are making, which is, I don't accept this result. We're going to take this to the convention, and we're going to make somebody else... No, I think you're making the case. You're saying, no, but you're putting that out as a plausible alternative to Donald Trump. And the question is, how do you do that? How do you tell the voters that we're going to... We've heard what you said, but that's a suggestion. We want this guy to be our nominee.
Well, Ben Ginsburg was on this network last night and made the correct point, which is, there's a reason why these rules exist. The rules exist so that if someone doesn't get a majority of delegates, that you can have a second ballot at the convention. That's why that's what the rules are designed to take advantage of. My only point isn't, I couldn't care less what the outcome of this is. It's just interesting.
Right.
And your point, what's different this time, Joe, I think, is that in almost every nomination fight I've ever seen, when you get a dominant front runner who's at the overwhelming favor like this, the party wants there to be, they look at that front runner after night like this, and the party wants to coalesce behind them. Let's get this over with. Let's get behind Mitt Romney, John McCain, whoever.
I understand, but what I'm saying is the party has absolutely no power. The conservative media has absolutely no power. The voters have taken this into their own hands, and whether you like it or not, again, we pass no judgment. We're just looking at a guy that can throw a 30 and out on a line.
And Joe, has the party done anything yet? Has the party done something to try and stump Trump? I'm just asking. Has there been any act? Any meeting? Anything? Has anything happened?
Well, Mark,
has anything happened? Because unless something happens, the more we prognosticate about it, it's the more you're showing your wishes, as opposed to covering the story.
What you're about to see...
Yeah, go ahead.
What I think you're about to see is major money put behind efforts to stop Trump from winning Ohio and to stop Trump from winning Florida. And that money cannot stop him alone. It's going to take performance by Kasich, performance by Rubio. Again, not cheering for an outcome, not predicting an outcome.
Well,
but if Trump goes to the convention with 40% of the delegates...
Does anybody think, Willie, do you think that spending money against Donald Trump and TV ads are going to work?
Narrative.
No, but Mark is right. There was a conference call last night. Mark, correct me if I have the names wrong. Meg Whitman was on it, Paul Singer, and Tom Ricketts, I think, to talk about this very question. We've got to stop this now.
TV ads alone will not work. It's going to take candidate performance as well. But I will just say, in terms of this notion of a talking point standpoint of how could you take the nomination away from a guy with the majority, with the plurality of the delegates. If 60% of the delegates go to the convention having been supported someone else, and there's a Kasich Rubio ticket or a Rubio Cruz ticket, they could say, look, 60% of the delegates are for these two guys.
It sounds like fantasy. Right now, Donald Trump, again, and all we've talked about through the past 9 months have been data. And all we've said when people were shocked, you think Donald Trump could win? We said, show us the data that suggests he can't. Not that he will.
No,
but so let's look at the data before us now. In the state of Florida, Donald Trump, I think he's ahead by over 20 points right now in the state of Florida.
For you to clinch the nomination before Cleveland. Have you come to that conclusion?
No, I don't believe that. I think especially once you get to the winner-take-all phase, the map gets a lot friendlier for us, and especially as the race narrows down. I mean, look, if a couple people weren't on the ballot, we would have won Virginia tonight, and I think a couple other states as well. So we feel real good as we get into March 15th about that. I think the question is, how does Donald Trump get to 1,237 delegates?
Boy, he really went after Ted Cruz for doing badly when he didn't even lift the hammer.
Who had a great night.
Seriously,
Who had
he won caucus.
Ted Cruz won 3 states. Exceeded expectations. This is just like last week. Marco Rubio, after Donald Trump beat him by 22 points,
that was like gobbledygook,
said that Donald Trump underperformed. I mean, this is why people hate politics.
Why are you looking so like...
people standing in front of you saying something that everybody knows is not true.
That was just not
tell
true.
The truth.
Well, I think Rubio's done a pretty masterful job of managing
Of not
expectations
telling the truth?
managing expectations within his own orbit. It's obviously not transcending to the broader field, but his strategy was always 3-2-1. Whose strategy is to lose to 2 people, then lose to 1 person? When you're strategy, you know what I mean? I just want to say, I don't disagree with you, but well, no, and I think he sort of acknowledged for the first time, I thought it was the first time, that the strategy is more to deprive Trump of the nomination. I mean, the campaign started to acknowledge that it was a deprivation strategy, not a victory strategy.
We have an update, Mika. The new strategy, Alex Corson just said, somebody has said on Twitter that the new strategy is 3-5-2-4-3-3-3-3-2-2-3-1.
Okay, and Ted Cruz did badly, whatever. So Donald Trump announced his bid for the White House on June 16th. Remember that? At day 1 compared to everybody else. And Ted Cruz did badly, whatever. So Donald Trump announced his bid for the White House on June 16th. Remember that escalator ride? Well, 9 months later, he's likely closing in on the nomination. Here now is a look back at our analysis from day 1 compared to everybody else.
People just don't remember how much of a joke, a total joke, Ronald Reagan was with the national media. Say whatever you want to say about whatever candidate. When it's this close, anything can happen.
And then, what do you think?
Well, a lot of people in the media may scoff at it, see it as a PR stunt, something like that. He's got a lot of money. He obviously doesn't give a damn what anybody thinks about him, and he doesn't play by the rules. You'll have everybody ridicule him and say, oh, this is just a joke, this is blah, blah, blah. And then he'll go to South Carolina, and he'll have a bigger crowd than every other established candidate. When he's on a debate stage, and he turns to Scott Walker or Marco Rubio or Jeb Bush, and hits them not with something mean-spirited, but searing and truthful that nobody else in polite political society would say, it can shape a race. And so all these people saying that he's going to have no impact, they don't get it.
Stein, what's so funny?
I mean, listen, no one's doubting his entertainment value, the fact that he can deliver a good line, and the fact that he might have an impact on a debate stage. That's not in doubt. But to say that that makes him serious is ridiculous.
We've gotten to the point where a comical figure, a comical blowhard like Donald Trump is conceively a player.
Let me wrap this. Everyone needs to stop overreacting to the line that he could have a serious impact on this race, because, as you pointed out last week, he has the ability to liquefy people in one 20-second soundbite.
Listen, I'm not sitting here saying he debated well. I'm not saying he'd be a good president. I'm not saying that he doesn't say offensive things all the time. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying this denial of reality by the mainstream media is actually feeding into Donald Trump's strength.
Our big statement is that Donald Trump is not a serious candidate. We're saying that we will not participate in this sort of legitimacy of a fringe candidate.
A guy that has a quarter of the vote is way ahead in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. He's not a fringe candidate by his very definition. If Jeb Bush had Donald Trump's numbers, the race would be over. TK over.
Yeah. I don't understand the question when a guy's at the top of the poll and he's been there for, what, 4 months now? The question is, when will you decide to get out of the race?
What? Maybe 100% of his supporters, but certainly the vast majority of them who go to these rallies, they are not going away.
So am I getting a truck?
No, you're not going to get a truck.
Everybody is waking up to the fact that he actually could win this thing.
He's not going to win the thing, Joe.
Well, we don't know whether he is or not. Donald Trump's strength, mark it down, is the Deep South.
Yep.
If Donald Trump gets past Iowa and New Hampshire, he wins South Carolina by 20. He wins Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi.
If you want someone to beat Hillary Clinton, it would be Donald Trump, because he will do things that none of those candidates will do. I'm not saying it's good, and I'm not saying it's pretty, and I'm not saying it's right. But the Democratic Party has a problem if Trump wins the nomination.
Wow, I didn't know that. And so what do you do after you dunk the ball and you shatter the backboard? Do you just walk off the court, Willie?
That's what Shaq used to do.
That's what Shaq used to do? Okay, I'm sorry.
I think it's
We
good.
called it, and all along we said, not because it's good, not because it's right, not because it's bad, but we saw it coming. The establishment didn't, and now they're shocked.
I think it's because through tons of different work-related events and the Apprentice appearances and pageants, we've known him. We have known him
The celebrity.
for a decade.
You and I
We've known the
remember,
celebrity.
and I remember being here and at one point calling myself a
Him
Trump
coming on the
denier,
show.
and then Kate Steinle was killed in San Francisco, the innocent girl who was murdered by someone who was in the country illegally, and San Francisco is a sanctuary city.
Right.
And I remember just feeling the whole thing change, and he was so right about something so visceral.
Yeah.
And then an event, and campaigns are, they always turn on events.
You know, they always turn on
things.
events, and as we've said here, and we said it right after Paris, that was actually a defining moment. Donald Trump's defining moment was Barack Obama's perceived tepid response to Paris. And that solidified the need for strength, perceived strength. Willie, the one thing we did since August is we kept pointing at the day, saying it's August, it's September, it's October. And you kept saying, why did I keep telling you to drop out of the race?
There was a string of about 2 months where they put up a poll that showed Trump up by 12 points. Show the poll, Trump would be smiling. They'd say, "Sir, when will you get out of this race?" They didn't know what that means. So remember, it was going to be the summer of Trump for a long time.
Right.
Then it was the fall of Trump, and this flirtation couldn't last. And people kind of woke up, I think, in the last couple of weeks. But I actually don't even blame most people, because who really could have seen this coming on paper? It just doesn't make sense. It didn't add up that this guy could actually win the nomination. He could be fun to talk about and fun to have in the race, but he didn't add up as a nominee.
So, you know, it's very interesting, Mark Halperin. We got skewered 4 years ago for trying to explain to Nate Silver's worshipers that sometimes politics can't just be distilled down to numbers. That sometimes things that don't make sense happen in American politics. And a lot of the things that we put up there were Nate Silver's predictions, which have been wrong about Donald Trump from the very beginning. Sometimes there's a ghost in the machine. Sometimes things just happen.
Flesh and blood matters. You know, you and I have talked about this a lot. This was not the strongest field in a generation. It was the most overrated field in a generation. That helped Trump. But Trump has also shown himself to be one of the most extraordinary candidates.
God bless the Lone Star States.
5 days ago, we began to explain to the American people that Donald Trump is a con artist. He loves to talk about polls. We are seeing in state after state his numbers coming down, our numbers going up.
They're declaring Marco Rubio the big loser of the night, which is true.
We are going to send a message that the party of Lincoln and Reagan and the presidency of the United States will never be held by a con artist.
We are the only campaign that has beaten Donald Trump once, twice, 3 times.
I think we're going to be more inclusive. I think we're going to be more unified. and I think we're going to be a much bigger party, and I think we're going to win in November.
Super Tuesday's in the books, and it's all over, but the pickup trucks. Look, who's on set here?
Oh, Mike Barnacle.
Mike Barnacle.
Leave him alone.
Mika got one step closer to you having to get her a pickup truck from your bed. What do you want?
I think I want a used FJ. I'm not sure.
I
get a new one.
I can handle that.
Hit him up.
I don't think they have new ones. Aren't those dangerous?
No, I can
roll over and kill people?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I can get that.
Yeah, so who are you going to give that to?
I don't know. We'll see. I just
If
can't
I have
wait
one
to
of those in my driveway.
I think they're cool. Victory of the night in the Minnesota caucuses. Overall, Trump came away with the most delegates last night, 210 so far. He's leading the field in the total delegate count with over 100 more delegates than Ted Cruz and nearly triple the amount claimed by Marco Rubio.
On the Democratic side, it was all Hillary Clinton. She solidified her front-runner status with wins in 7 states to Bernie Sanders' 4. Secretary Clinton won Massachusetts and swept through the South, claiming victories in Arkansas, Tennessee, Virginia, Texas, Georgia, and Alabama. She also won the caucuses in American Samoa. As for Senator Sanders, he notched wins in his home state of Vermont, also Oklahoma, Colorado, and Minnesota. And at this hour, NBC News is allocating 461 delegates.
Yeah, I'll just chime in a little bit here. Some of you are going, what? American Samoa? Well,
at 979 for Clinton and 382.
You can look it up. It's your history of the Mormon Church.
This hour, the managing editors of
the
Bloomberg
Samoan
Politics, John
pipeline.
Heilman and Mark Halperin, veteran columnist and MSNBC contributor Mike Barnacle, and in Washington, MSNBC political contributor and editor at The Fix at the Washington Post, Chris Salissa, and political reporter for the Washington Post, and MSNBC political analyst Robert Costa, and Jonathan Capehart is still with us as well.
Yeah, it goes back to the entire
Washington Post. So, Mike Barnacle, what was your takeaway last night?
My takeaway last night, you talked about it earlier. We've been talking about it for 2 or 3 weeks. The Republican Party is basically broken, and the Republican Party has to figure out how to align itself with the country, not with any one specific candidate to beat Donald Trump. It's too angry, it's too dysfunctional, it's too shattered.
Robert Costa,
Hillary Clinton is doing it most clearly, and so when you know that, the fact that she was able to sweep African Americans plus take Massachusetts, there you're seeing it in action. 28% progressive whites, 23% people of color.
She was talking a lot in her speech about making America whole again, and Donald Trump responded as well to that. Take a look.
I watched Hillary's speech, and she's talking about wages have been poor, and everything's doing badly, but we're going to make it. She's been there for so long. I mean, if she hasn't straightened it out by now, she's not going to straighten it out in the next 4 years. It's just going to become worse and worse. She wants to make America whole again, and I'm trying to figure out what is that all about. Make America great again is going to be much better than making America whole again.
Willie.
That will be.
Trump explicitly now said last night, my thoughts are on Hillary Clinton now. I mean, he treated that, given the staging and everything, the content of what he said was to turn toward a general election.
Trump's asymmetrical attacks, how effective they have been, especially in the case of the Clintons, where Hillary Clinton, before Christmas, said that Donald Trump had been sexist towards women. Donald Trump put out a tweet and an Instagram. And as the New York Times reported about 3 or 4 weeks later, Bill Clinton's approval rating dropped during that time period from 51% to 39%. That was one tweet. That was one Instagram. This looks like this is going to be a political...
think of a classy metaphor.
Trying to figure out nuclear war. I was trying to figure out a better way to say it. This is going
to... metaphor that describes it without getting personal.
Willie is right. I've talked to lots of Democrats privately over the last couple of days. It's become clear to more and more people that this is effectively Donald Trump's nomination to lose. And they say, we would much rather have Ted Cruz than Donald Trump. And you say, oh, well, why would, to running it, so why would that be? Because to Willie's point, Ted Cruz is going to run as a traditional conservative outsider Republican. We have no idea, really. I mean, Donald Trump's going to run as Donald Trump, whatever that means, right? I mean, it's like the definition of asymmetric warfare. He will do and say things that no other candidate will do or say. He will bring people from the past, maybe, as you point out, Joe, onto stage, put them on ads, do the sorts of things that the Clintons are not used to, that no politician is used to. to. Now, I'm not sure that means he wins, but I can tell you, you would much rather fight I hate to say the known knowns versus the known unknowns, but Donald Trump is the biggest unknown, the biggest radical variable in any political equation. And anyone will tell you, up until Bill Clinton will tell you, you don't want to run against that.
No, you really don't. I've always quoted William F. Buckley, who said, never debate an amateur. The amateur always wins, people that don't play by the rules. It's so amazing, Willie, what you just said, because I said it last night to Mark Halperin while we were watching The Returns. I said, you watch. They don't want this, because he will bring women from the past up on stage with him. He will make it a horrific war of attrition for the Clintons.
And there are some of those women who've shown a willingness to participate and become more active on Twitter and spoken out against
industrial swing states that sometimes swing elections.
And last night was an important moment for Trump. I mean, I rewatched that press conference this morning. Instead of a rally, taking questions from reporters, bringing out a governor to introduce him, assigned to the Republican establishment, he can work with them. A measured tone in many respects. Turning his eye towards the general election, not really towards his rivals. This is a Trump who sees the nomination in sight, wants the nomination, thinks he can be president.
Wow. Our thanks to the entire editorial staff.
It seems yeah, they're all here. Look at this.
Jonathan Capehart, Chris
promotional poster.
And Robert Costa and Joe Scarborough. All right.
To give you an idea how the Republican Party is twisted up on this, last night the RNC put out a statement in which it didn't mention any of its candidates. It's true. They said our turnout was through the roof. They should brag about that. It was through the roof. They said Hillary Clinton's terrible, but they didn't say, congratulations, Donald Trump, on winning 7 states. Nice job, Ted Cruz, on winning 3 states. They don't know who to back.
Congratulate themselves on this calendar they created. Heck of a job.
Yeah. Heck of a job, Browning. And speaking of Marco Rubio, he has actually till June 24th to qualify if he wanted to run for that Senate seat again. His problem is he's got to look at March 15th. He can't lose in Florida by 20 points and have to fly.
Konnichiwa, and Yabaseo. Hey, rare on-camera presence here at POLIT'AI CHI, Will, the OMSR parent channel. As you can see, I put this out there. It's like a caveat, with the caveat of 1992 National Championship. Of course, back then they didn't go out on a limb and print that. Trust me, this is a very limited edition, hard to find sweatshirt. It cost $80 in 1991. Holiday season. Very few of these running around, but rare indeed. Alright, so I'm very obviously basking in the glow of the last National Championship. I like the representative here. Now, I'm not implying that a love of a particular state or university therefore doth imply, all things fall underneath that umbrella. However, I have liked this guy, and people give MSNBC a hard time, as you can see. Courtesy to, video highlights courtesy to, but that's already running up there. He's been well spoken in the past. Not so much now. The fuzzy math's going to come up to try to justify one's position, which is what Joe and Mika were speaking to before, which is why you got to, watch, get your morning Joe. TiVo it, whatever you need to do. Center left, center right. I like to think of myself as that one person encapsulated. Very rarely do voiceovers. Maybe I should more often. It's kind of an innocuous thing to do politics on whatever the subject matter may be, because they're so far-ranging. Right, and so something I do that I think is kind of cool takes off, and then something else, put a lot of time and effort into. Fickle audience. Not seeing any of you out there right now. Anywho, yo, Mo, what the... Better stop right there. You're going to hear a perfect example of this prevailing attitude. It's like, well, Donald Trump's in trouble, this, that, and the other. I had to step in and be like, okay, hold up, stop the presses, back the truck up. Because that is indicative of what's evident encapsulation of what is kind of plaguing this whole process. Donald Trump's the man. Businessman. We need a businessman in there. We don't need another junior senator in there. These guys are being like poor losers. It's like, well, if I can't win the game, I'm just going to take my ball and go away and nobody else can play and have a chance to win. That's not a winning strategy. That's just... indicative of America and some of the cultural problems we have, in my opinion. Just saying. In a nutshell. All right, roll it.
You to get out of this race?
Well, certainly if John Kasich or Ben Carson get out, that helps the anti-Trump forces coalesce behind Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz. If Marco Rubio also gets out, Ted Cruz will be the Republican nominee. I want to, if I might take a minute, I want to focus on an entirely different perspective from what I've been hearing last night on the major networks and also this morning. And by way of background, I've been a student of public policy and political science for 4 decades. I've held elected office as a Republican for 3 decades. I've been to Republican national conventions. Ted Cruz had a really good night last night in that he won his home state and he also won bonuses of Oklahoma and Alaska. Marco Rubio did what he needed to do to stay in the race, having won Minnesota. The big loser last night, contrary to what you're seeing everywhere else, was Donald Trump. Now, maybe he doesn't realize it yet, and maybe the people in the mainstream media don't realize it yet, but let me explain what I mean. Donald Trump's Achilles heel was badly exposed last night. I think you're going to see that play out over the next few weeks. Further, the key is not how many states you win. That's like scoring a touchdown. That's a good thing. The key is how many delegates you get, and Donald Trump is not getting the delegates he needs to win a first ballot fight at the Republican National Convention. Now, there are 2 types of caucuses or primaries. One is open, where anybody can vote. In Alabama, we had Democrats voting in the Republican primary to help elect Donald Trump because they thought he was weaker. Another type is closed primaries, where only Republican voters can vote. And Republican voters want a nominee who best represents their party and their wishes for America. Someone with honor, someone with dignity, someone who shares our moral values and the public policies that are necessary to make us a better country. And with Donald Trump, he has now lost 80%, 4 out of 5. Of the closed primary states where Republican voters are choosing the Republican nominee. Upcoming, we have over 20 states that are closed. If Donald Trump keeps that losing record, only winning 1 out of 5, with over 1,000 delegates being distributed in these upcoming 20 closed primary and caucus states, Donald Trump's in a world of trouble.